You are the salt of the earth. These prophetic words are the exact words that Jesus spoke to his disciples and the multitudes of people standing before him, way up on a hill in northern Israel, somewhere on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, during his most famous sermon of all, the Sermon on the Mount. Tonight's New Testament reading is set early in the ministry of Jesus, after he's been baptized by John the Baptist in chapter 3. Jesus gathered his first disciples in chapter 4 and had returned from a long fast and confrontation in the Judean desert, where he had been tempted by Satan to give up on his spiritual mission to save the world. So in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus is then revived, regenerated, and just getting started as we can hear our Savior preach his gospel of God. Jesus was teaching the crowds of people the Beatitudes in verses 3 through 12. Jesus' people were with his disciples, and they were any man, woman, or child that was searching for righteousness and mutual understanding of what God really wants from us as human beings. Jesus' people were welcome to be any individual from any background, neither a Jew or Gentile, born either slave or free. Jesus' people were anyone who wanted to seek the true Creator God. Jesus' people were any soul who searched beyond their comfort zones to skeptically hear and eagerly see Jesus in action as he touched, healed, moved, and shared his powerful miracles of hope throughout the land. Here is where we pick up in verse 13 through 16, where Jesus says, and this is the inclusive reading, "You are the salt of the earth, but what if the salt were to lose its flavor? How could you restore it? It would be fit for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. Don't build a city on a hill and then try to hide it, or do you? You don't light a lamp and then put it under a basket bushel, do you? Jesus said, no. You set it on a stand where it gives light to all the house. In the same way, your light must shine before others, so that they may see your good acts and give praise to your Abba God in heaven." That's very self-explanatory, and there's a lot of power in this message, because here Jesus foretells his disciples of the world that they are all made of salt and light. Salt being a vital mineral that is so precious that we cannot live without it, and light being a term that is used in the Hebrew Bible to describe Jesus' descendants: Moses, Abraham, David, Isaac, and Jacob, all members of the faith community who have over the centuries fulfilled God's great plan for Israel. That's why our first scripture reading tonight references the prophet Isaiah's teachings about God's protection and blessings for the righteous. Because many cities in the ancient world were walled and gated for protection of their inhabitants from outside threats. A breach in the wall was a threat to everyone's security. And now, for Jesus to be called by the people a repairer of broken walls and a restorer of ruined neighborhoods is to be dedicated to reclaiming a community's safety and dignity from those who would otherwise damage, steal, and destroy their homes. I particularly like this book of Isaiah because it's so loaded with knowledge. I love how this portion of chapter 58 refers to food as well as to sharing your gifts with the ones who are less fortunate than most of us are. I should have asked our reader to read the whole 58th chapter, but I thought that might be a little too long, so I'm going to read a few verses that were before the reading tonight. So here in Isaiah verse 6 reads, "On the contrary, this is the sort of fast that pleases me. Remove the chains of injustice, undo the ropes of the yoke. Let those who are oppressed go free, and break every yoke you encounter. Share your bread with those who are hungry, and shelter homeless people! Exclamation point. Clothe those who are naked, and don't hide from the needs of your own flesh and blood! Exclamation point. Do this, and your light will shine in the dawn, and your healing will break forth like lightning. Your integrity will go before you, and the glory of Yahweh will be your regard. So Isaiah number 58, number 10 reads, there's a lot of words of wisdom here. If you give yourself to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light will rise in the darkness. Now, salt is naturally found in the depths of the earth and in the sea. Salt is an evolving mineral that has changed in its many forms and terminologies over the centuries. Salt has grown into different varieties and has new meanings as well. For example, in the 21st century, one can be called salty, which is a term in the Urban Dictionary that's used to describe someone who got upset about something that was very little. And for any meal, we have table salts and different kinds of seasoning salts. We have Epsom salt and ice melting salt, which is helpful in getting us through surviving these horrible winters in New England. But the melting salt can do heavy damage and could cause corrosion to your car. In chemistry, a salt is a solid chemical compound consisting of an ionic assembly of cations and anions, which are electrolyzed energy. These salts are composed of related numbers of positively charged ions and negatively charged anions, so that the product is electrically neutral and has no charge. These component ions can be inorganic, such as chloride, or an organic, such as acetate, and can be monatomic, whatever that means, and such as fluoride or polyatomic, such as sulfate. Salt can be used as a preservative as well as a flavoring agent. I like when Jesus asks, what if the salt were to lose its flavor? That's a question to ponder. How do we restore it? That's a question that's quite worth an answer. Here's more scientific facts. The human body contains many salts, of which sodium chloride is the most major one, making up around 0.4% of the body's weight at a concentration well equivalent to that in seawater. Some of us at a particular age, you know who you are, that from eating too much salt in our diets can cause a harmful wreck to the delicate balance and raise our blood pressures to dangerous levels. So an average 110-pound person will contain around 200 grams of sodium chloride in their bodies, which is around 40 teaspoons. How do we renew ourselves so that we don't get trodden down and thrown away like Jesus describes here? Are you worth your salt? Well, this brings me around to a thought that I've been having today. Actually, I want to kind of put this sermon on pause and bring you a sermon or a part of my life in a Black History moment. This is Black History Month, as some of you may know. This Black History Month in 2020 will be, I feel like it'll be the best one we ever had. Are you ready for this moment in Black history? Yes? Yes. Okay. So, this is a woman who's definitely worth her salt. Tonight, I want to pay tribute to one of my favorite divas of Black history, the phenomenal Miss LaDonna Adrienne Gaines, otherwise known by her stage name, Miss Donna Summer. I remember the summer of 1978. I was a 16-year-old runaway, having gone through a highly abusive childhood with an awkward puberty. One day, I remember getting kicked out of my foster home for fighting against my foster mother. And I had to go live with a new foster family. My new foster family was transitioning into becoming of the Pentecostal faith tradition. Now, in those times before Walkmans, compact discs, or MP3 players, I had no device to listen to music with. We had only record players in the house. I had to sneak around most of the time to listen to Donna Summer's exciting music privately. I found Donna's music to be fun, inspirational, and positively sexy. Her music gave me joy whenever nobody was around. Children, though we did not have a language for it back then, something was rising up in me. I was starting to feel something going on in my homosexual hormones. Child, I knew that I was beginning to identify as gay. And my new foster parents noticed it too. They forced me to attend church more and told me to burn my Donna Summer's albums. Well, I went to church, but I refused to burn my Donna Summer's records that I love so dearly. I remember reluctantly throwing the albums away, down into the dumpster. I cried. I was sad and heartbroken. I was angry and also very confused. I had asked myself, why? Why do I have to give up this music that I love? Why? Because of my faith in God? Why do I have to give up Donna Summer? It was okay for me to listen to her when I was a Baptist. Why, now that we are Pentecostal, why are we not supposed to have fun? Needless to say that soon after that, I ended up kicking my own self out of that house this time. I did what I had to do to survive, and the rest is history. Now in 2020, I feel my life has come around full circle. And Donna Summer had her time. She had her own struggles with her religion and faith, which caused her to turn on the very community that made her popular. She had her own personal demons and reparations to do, and she made it through, and we took her back. And though Donna Summer passed away in 2012, I still feel something whenever I hear her powerful voice. Who would have ever thought that I'd be living in Dorchester, Massachusetts, where that's the birthplace of this famous woman. And now I'm a Baptist pastor, and I don't need vinyl records anymore. Now we are living in the future and have all kinds of gadgets to play and listen to our music with. Wireless devices that can stream Donna Summer through a Bluetooth headphone or speaker whenever I want to. And now that I am also a chef, I can finally understand and relate to one of the oddest pop songs ever made. It's in 1978, Donna Summer took the song MacArthur's Park and turned it into a psychedelic hit that reached #1 in the disco history. MacArthur's Park is a song about a broken relationship that was written and composed by Jimmy Webb in 1968. The song aired in the United States during the Vietnam War, and the critics called the song the worst song ever written to hit the radio. The song was originally sung by an Irish actor named Richard Harris, and the song made it to the top 40. The song contains deep messages in its lyrics and is ridiculed for its nonsensical lines. So now, as a pastor and a chef, I've studied the spiritual significance of food. I can relate to this song because it all makes sense to me now. Because food gives love, food gives life and comfort. Sometimes I get so many donations that I have to figure out what to do and what to use. And sometimes all of the right ingredients come together to make the perfect cake. And if somebody comes along that ruins that cake, it's tragic. If somebody comes along and does not appreciate all the love and care that went into baking that cake, my heart starts to break, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So for my benediction, I will send you forth and sing this song to you, because you are the salt of the earth. May it be so.